Hello, and welcome to Does It Resonate with You, the thought-provoking conversation show where your hosts, Angie of the ZXUH Method and John the Tarot Geek, figure out what resonates with them while encouraging you to find what resonates with you. Let's get started.
Hello. So, welcome to the show today. John had a family emergency, so he's not going to be with us this week. And my very, very dear friend Valerie decided that it would be okay for her to come and join in on the conversation. I'm really excited because we always have fun when we talk. So, thanks so much for joining me.
Oh my God, thanks Angie for even asking me. I'm
Well,
excited. So
me too. Me too. I mean, I love talking to John. We have a great time, but
yeah.
once in a while, it's nice to shake it up a little bit. That's
Mhm.
why we like having guests on. So if you've been watching, since the beginning, Val was on with us
Yeah.
as a guest one time. John's questions for Val are a little different than mine, which I find to be hilarious, because it just demonstrates how everybody's in different places on their journey, I think. So I know, Val, one of the things that you're passionate about teaching people is signs and
Mhm.
how to look for them and maybe what they mean and maybe what they don't mean. So
Mhm.
if you had somebody who said, I'm looking for signs, I'm looking for a sign, I'm waiting for a sign, but I don't know what that means, what would you tell
Mhm.
them, you think?
Usually the first thing I will say is, did you ask for a sign? Right?
Oh, see that, right?
Right? A lot of times we'll be like, I'm looking, I'm not saying. And so I always say, well, you have to ask first. So, start there. Ask for a sign, set the intention that one's going to come to you, right? And then the next step is what my teachers drilled in me 1,000 times: pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. And you pay attention to anything that's kind of unusual that makes you, pause. Or if you're like me, you'd be like, huh, that's weird, right? Like that's strange. I wasn't expecting that. Or something repetitive. And so I think sometimes they don't. Oh, I love that, Angie, but ask for the signal, sign, pay attention. So true.
Right?
So true. Right. And I think people don't realize that the first step is to ask. So when you ask, they're kind of listening. And then the second step is to pay attention. And so you're kind of on an lookout for that. So,
Right? I think
mhm.
that a lot of people don't understand that they have the power to ask for the sign, right? I
Yeah.
think there are a lot of people who are on embarking on this kind of journey, and I think that they think that the guides, teachers, and angels, source, spirit, whatever,
Mhm.
um, that it's all happening to them, and like they're not in
Mhm.
charge. And while there are things, divine timing, divine providence, divine, so many things the guides, angels show us,
Mhm.
or say over and over until you do what they tell you. Okay, fine. Um,
That's
but
true sometimes, right?
it is true. But you are always still in charge. I could still always say no, and he could
Yeah.
still keep saying it over and over again because he knows that if I actually do that, that I'm going to
Mhm.
be really happy that I did, right? Like so.
Absolutely.
So they're always operating in your own best interest. So
Yeah.
um, I think I remember when I first started. One piece of advice that I got too was to ask for the signs to be things that are easy to spot in the physical world. Because I
Mm,
didn't I didn't
that's
have
a
the
good idea.
connection that I have now, right? So
Right.
what kind of things might people see as a sign? What
Mhm.
might people see? Like what things people
Well,
see things over and over, all kinds of things, right?
yeah, you know what? Some of the common ones, especially with, I will say, with loved ones, some of the common ones you'll see
Oh dear. Well, I guess I'll keep talking until she comes back. Oh my goodness. Some of the common things I think that people see are time on a clock or license plates or here she is.
I'm
This
using a
is
different camera.
so let me tell you that we are real and
Yeah.
it's really us And those are real technical difficulties. So if you're
Yeah,
looking for a sign, that might be it. It might be, and the sign might be telling you to get a
totally.
new camera, right?
Totally. New computer.
Oh my
I've talked to John about this too. So
goodness.
oh,
About signs or about getting a new
about the
computer?
new camera, right?
Oh,
So but anyways, you know what? So especially there's common ones. You have coins, you have butterflies, dragonflies, you have what did I say? Cardinals. Like some of those are some of the external signs that I hear a lot of my cardinals or a lot of my clients talking about. Like, oh, I see the two cardinals, and one's my mom and one's my dad, or their loved ones leave them coins and so forth. And angels and loved ones, they kind of can show you the same signs. It doesn't really, you don't always have to differentiate in the beginning about who's who, but those are some of the common ones that we see. But I always say if it's something's kind of unusual because we can, where I'm in the Midwest, so we do see a lot of cardinals. So I would say if it was like an unusual cardinal sighting, or there's this butterfly, and everywhere you go, you're seeing butterflies everywhere. So it's either repetitive, so it's showing you over and over, right? Or it's
mhm.
just something unusual about the experience.
like
So
like when you're holding the steering wheel and you're driving down the road and a dragonfly lands on the back of your hand.
yeah, so like that would be highly unusual,
It would
right?
be, and it was. It freaked me out a little bit, but I remember it very well. So
Yeah,
um,
sign.
they were all
Definitely
over the
sign.
place, especially in the beginning when you don't have that connection, so that you can hear things or know things or feel things or sense things.
Right.
You
Hmm.
need for them to be things that are easy to spot. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
remember a conversation I had with somebody one time, and when she was thinking about her father, somewhere along through the course of her day, she would find not a coin, but a little pile of coins.
Oh,
Like
beautiful.
a not just a nickel somewhere, but a little pile of coins. And
Oh,
she always knew that that was her dad. And um, I thought that was really interesting. And I remember years ago, before I ever stepped a foot on this journey, that I found a penny in a hallway in my house where it just did not make sense. Like my purse never went that far into it was an apartment. My purse never went
hmm
that far. I don't carry, like things in my pockets.
hmm
But there was a penny, and the year on the penny was 1975, which was the year my mother passed. And I
hmm
thought, oh,
Wow,
okay, well that makes sense to me. So does it
beautiful
even
sign.
matter if it was actually them that put it there, or is it enough that it's the memory, that they're thinking of you?
Hmm.
Because I believe no matter whether she put that penny there or not, it was a signal for me to remember her and to remember that, to know that she was thinking of me. You know what I mean? Like, does
Yeah,
that make sense?
it does. So, you know what? I read every time I see coins, um, every time I see a penny, I had read a story years ago. I think it was in Reader's Digest, and it talked about, right? It was a story about these two men were together, and one was very wealthy, and every time he saw a penny, he picked it up. And his friend said, "You don't need a penny. Why are you picking it up?" And he said, "It's not because I need the penny. It's a sign to me. It's a reminder of something." And he says, "What?" And he holds the penny, picks up the penny, and it says, "In God we trust." So every time I get a coin or a penny,
Oh,
it's almost as if his guides and so forth are saying, trust in the God, trust in source, trust in your angels, whoever it is you need to trust. And so when I find a penny, I don't look at it as a sign from one of my loved ones. I always see it as a sign from one of my angels. Just have some faith, have some trust, right? And I just start laughing.
and here's a little secret for you folks. For
Hmm.
as long as Val's been a medium and as long as she's been an angel channel, she is still a show me girl. She
Yes, I
still
still do
struggles
that.
a little bit with the trust. Not with the trust like they're like not about your best interest or anything,
No,
but but
sometimes you just
but
don't
about
want
the
to do.
believing, like okay,
No,
but well that's fine. You can tell me that, but I'm gonna need to see it. Like
so you know what? I will say it's not about the believing. I think I'm way beyond not believing.
right.
Sometimes when we do this kind of work, it's always a sense of going within and checking in and so forth. Sometimes if we're doing family stuff and we're just busy, I don't want to do that. Like, just show it to me, right? I want the easy route. So it's really not about trusting and believing anymore. It's really about, but the easy route, just show me. I'm
I,
always about easy.
I cannot tell you how many times I would say, it would just be easier if you would just tell me these things.
Exactly.
Sometimes, it depends. But when if it's for myself, usually they do. But if it's for somebody, I'm for a client,
Yeah.
now I'm working on translating that energy into a way that my mind can understand, right?
Mhm.
We talk about filter and connection. And
Right. Mhm.
so sometimes they're like, well, you just need to keep up,
Yes,
like
that's true.
just keep practicing and it will get easier. Like, and that is how do you become a medium? Just like getting to Carnegie Hall, right? Practice, practice, practice.
Practice, practice. And I think that's the same with signs. How do you recognize signs? It's just practice learning to pay attention to spot the signs, right? And
Right.
a lot of times, we'll get signs and we'll question it. Is that real? Is that from, my angel or whoever? So that's super common to question it. Your mind wants to question it, right? So I
Well,
think when you trust that it's just, yes, it's from, your mom, your angel, whoever, and you accept it and you say thank you, right? Then you hear it from all kinds of clients is that, oh, you just keep getting more. Oh, now I'm seeing this sign. I'm seeing this sign, right? So I
and
think they're
what is
always
the
there. Hmm.
right? There is a clue in what you just said. And this is something that I'm focusing on in my work moving forward. And that is you connect to the energy of the gratitude that you have for the sign, and you're
Exactly.
going to see more signs.
Yes.
Just like you could connect to the energy of the gratitude you have for anything that comes your way, and you're going to get more.
Right.
Gratitude is a big piece of
Yeah.
manifesting, and getting a
Absolutely.
sign is manifesting just like
Hmm.
anything else.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to just put this out there for you.
Hmm.
I know what I think, but I was working with my client this morning, and we were talking about an angel number,
Hmm.
and for her it was 545.
Hmm.
So I'm not huge on looking things up. Like, I believe
Right.
you should figure out what it means to you,
Right. Because it's
right, and then
personal.
go for it. So she told me what she felt it meant to her, and I looked it up, Googled it, which I found to be very interesting. There was like six different explanations for what this number
Mm-hmm.
means, an angel number, which is why I think you need to figure out what resonates with you, right? Like the whole name of the show.
Hmm.
Um, but
Absolutely.
what and it's interesting that we're talking about trust, because this one of the meanings for this number is trust in the divine, or something of that nature. And so for her, she started seeing at the beginning of her journey, and it was like a sign to she was moving in the right direction, and to keep moving forward,
Hmm.
to me, which is all
Right.
about trust. So I said that I think now, when and believe me, she doesn't need to see a sign out in the world, but she's been told to look for signs. Like,
Hmm.
her guidance has been, okay, bring it back to beginner's mind, so to speak.
Hmm.
So now, when you're looking for the sign that you're on the right track, tell them you want to show me the 545 to let me know that I'm on the right track. Do you think you can ask for a sign in that way? Do you see what I mean?
Really specific? Yes, I have clients and friends that have asked for really crazy specific things and it happens to them.
Sure.
So, yeah, absolutely. So, if that's what she needs to feel like she just being heard, because sometimes signs are just a way, are you there? Right? Did you hear me? That we need to sign. I'm absolutely to say you can ask for something specific. I will say to you, though, is that I'm always just I just want to know that you heard me. Give me the sign that is going to be for my highest good that I need to hear. Because a
Uh,
lot of times science will also give you, I would say spirit is like an onion, right? There's different layers to it. And so when you see a sign, it may have one meaning, but then, 3 weeks later, you're like, oh, it also means that, right? And
Right,
so forth,
exactly
right?
right, exactly. So that's why I think it's
Mhm.
important
Yep.
for you to take whatever that sign is and figure
Hmm.
out what it means to you, what it
Yeah,
relates to, what's happening in your life
absolutely.
right now. What have you been asking for? You know,
Absolutely.
um, because really intuition is how you connect to, receive, and interpret energy. That is it. Like,
Hmm.
and so the sign is a way that you're receiving the energy, and you need to interpret it for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
So angel numbers are great. People's meanings are great,
Yeah.
but sometimes 1111 just means you look at the clock at the same time every day, right? Like,
Sometimes. You know, I think I heard this phrase, and I know you use it too, Angie. Sometimes a rock is just a rock,
for real,
right? It is. Sometimes
for
it's just,
real.
right? A rock is just a rock, right? And so I think that's the key of learning how to discern when it is a sign and when it's just a rock, right?
So, what do you think about the statement, everything is a sign?
Well, you can be really philosophical about that and so forth. I don't necessarily think everything is a sign, only because then, you can look out I'm looking out my window and I can see, a sparrow fly in front of me. That's common. I could say that's a sign, and maybe technically it is, but I feel like if it's something strange, unusual, makes you pause, it's repetitive, I think those are the things that are a sign, right? Because otherwise, we would be, racking our brain and hitting our head against the wall every single day. Is that a sign? Is that a sign? Is that a sign? And I feel like it kind of loses this little bit of a magic. Then, if it's everything is a sign, it's not so magical, right? So.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
So I don't think everything's a sign, because if it was, then a rock wouldn't just be a rock. I mean, you know, you could get
And
technical about it and say, Mother Earth is always communicating with you and showing your signs and your angels, and which is absolutely true. But for the purposes for most people, you just want it to be something unusual, strange, repetitive, something that grabs your attention. That would be the sign. Otherwise, you look down and you're looking at a rock. Maybe a rock is just a rock, right? Or like you said, maybe you're just looking at the clock at the same time because you're being conditioned to it. It's a habit,
right,
right?
right, exactly. I mean,
Right.
and then and then
Mhm.
and then there's those people who say, "Oh, I keep seeing 1111. What does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean?" Well, what does it mean to you? You
Yeah.
know, like I don't know what it means. I keep googling it. I don't understand. What does it mean? You're never going to find the answer on Google. You're going to
Mhm.
find the answer inside. You're going to close your eyes, connect to the energy of the 1111. What is going on in your life? What do you need to hear? What is it trying to tell you? You have the ability to do that. So, and I think that sometimes people take everything is a sign and everything happens for a reason and kind of
Mhm.
combines them, right? Because I do believe that most things happen for a reason.
I did
You
too.
know, uh, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? Like that's the law
Mhm.
of physics. And as my husband so lovely says, the laws of physics will prevail, um, right? Like
That's right.
always. But everything happens for a reason. Now, it may, sometimes things happen for a reason because you weren't paying attention.
Yeah,
Sometimes things happen, sometimes doors close so that another better one can open. Like
absolutely.
there's always something, but
Mhm.
um I think, and I love signs, and I love getting information from the universe. I've been known to get signs myself when I'm not paying attention. A lot of times it'll be, hello, excuse me. You
Are
know,
you in there? You feel a poke, right? I was here talking to a client that I mentor. It's like a poke. Hello,
right,
hello, right?
right,
And then a friend of
right.
mine was just saying that this morning. Do you feel like you're getting poked? And if you don't answer, it's like louder. Are you paying attention? Are you listening?
Right? Or Val, 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 Val. That's what I hear. Val, 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 Val. Like call Val, Val, Val.
Right,
You
because
know,
it's repetitive, right?
yeah, right. And
That's the key.
then as soon as I do, the whole thing goes away.
Right,
Tell her
exactly.
this,
Exactly.
and then as soon as I do it, and it's not just you, it's other,
No,
like
exactly.
people I work with and things like that. But
Uh-huh.
I think that sometimes people can spend too much time looking for signs because they
Mhm.
miss, like if they're looking for a specific, they're looking for the cardinal, right? And then they miss the blue jay flyby.
Oh, well, there I would say, I don't, from a personal standpoint, I don't think you can spend an enough time on science, but I think you're right. If you're looking for something really specific, like I'm only identifying my, angel or my mom as a cardinal, which is great, right? But sometimes maybe a blue jay shows up in your life and your mom's saying, "Hey, I want to be a blue jay now," or look up the meaning of the blue jay, or maybe it was a childhood memory, right? You remember your mom feeding, having a feeder, and the blue jays were always out there eating the peanuts, right? Or whatever. So maybe she was just showing you a memory. So if we're so narrow minded, sometimes you're right, you may miss some other signs that coming. So I always say, be open to what spirit is giving you, right? And showing you so that you don't, so that you can interpret it with how it's going to be personal to you. Because, your mom wants to signs aren't just about, hello, I'm here, which it can be, but if it was a memory of a blue jay, it could be like, hey, do you remember this? It's a way to start communicating with them, right? And would be like, hey, and your mind says, oh my gosh, I remember when I was a little girl, right? We used to do this, or right.
Wouldn't that be a
Mm-hmm.
wonderful thing to ask for?
Mm-hmm.
Hello, show me things that sparked my memory.
Yes, what
Um,
isn't
I,
it?
I,
Yeah,
I'm not going to say much about it, but you
yeah,
that you're having you're in your awareness
yeah,
that that happened to me recently. Somebody that I
yeah,
connected with,
yes, that's
and
right.
and they were showing me things that sparked memories that I
Mm-hmm.
had completely forgotten were there, like
Mm-hmm.
40-year-old memories that
Yeah.
or
Mm-hmm.
30-year-old whatever. Um,
Right.
it's complex and easy at the same time, right? Like
Yeah.
the whole thing is like a paradox wrapped up in an enigma, like right? Because there is no one. I mean, there's great rules of thumb,
Yeah.
but there's no one right answer for everyone.
Oh no.
Because some
No.
people smell, some people catch whiffs
Mm-hmm.
of things, some people hear things, some people see colors, some people notice billboards and license plates, and like
Absolutely.
because of the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I have an affinity for numbers myself, so
Mm-hmm.
I remember for a while there was a license plate I saw like all the time, and it said Druid.
Oh,
It said
cool.
Druid. I know, right? It was cool, and I kept seeing it until I did a meditation and went and visited with the Druids, and um, and then I never saw it again. So it is
Fine.
it's a it's a prompt to an
Yes.
action, right? Like, and
Mm-hmm.
the action may simply be to sit and remember something,
Yeah.
but that's still an action. It may be
Mm-hmm.
asking you to do something. It may be showing you a direction. Like maybe on this side you see 333, but over here you see 444. Which one is the apple and which is the orange for you?
Right.
Me personally, I'd pick a nectarine, but
It
whatever. But you know what
could
I
be
mean?
both, right? Yeah, but you're right. It has to be really personal to you.
Right.
You know, you can start off with the books or the internet, but you still need to be, translate that to say, well, what does this mean to my life? What was I asking at that time, right? So if it's not just a sign from my mom, but what was I asking my angels or my guides, or maybe it was your mom, what do you think about this? How to help me with that? That's where I would say, what were you thinking? What did you ask? What do you want to know? And then what does that say to you? Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, think about it. See, discernment, right? That's a big part of science, discernment.
Mhm. Exactly.
So, have you ever had people, or have you ever suggested to people that they keep like a dictionary or a journal of
Mhm.
signs, things that they
Yeah,
do they
it's
find
funny.
out things interesting when they do that?
Yeah, so I in my science class at the very end, I always say, I actually, if you're in an in-person class, the several times I've had a dear friend make them some science journals. So a couple
Ah,
of times people in my classes have gotten lucky and got a science journal. But I always say that keep a science journal. And a friend that I was mentoring, and it was all about science. We started in the fall and to like really dive deep. And science is actually a gateway to your intuition, believe it or not, right? But I don't
absolutely.
think people really understand that. But it is the first step gateway into your intuition. So we started with the science. And I was like, you need to write down what, everything that you see that's unusual, repetitive, so forth. Write down what it means and so on. And she's really organized. She's a teacher. She likes writing things down. It was so fascinating because she got some science. She thinks, oh, I think it means this and so forth, right? And I'm like, okay, great. And then it was maybe like a month later, she was going through a job transition. And so she actually looked back to all of this different science and she was like, her mouth was dropped because
Oh
she
my
said,
gosh.
they were giving me a heads up and showing me like
See?
what to do. Like, we don't know what we don't know, right? So, but it's really helpful to write down the signs and so that you can reference them, go back at the end of the week or go back, at the end of the month and go look through and say, oh, this is what they mean. And they're telling me from these signs, this is how I need to respond. So it's not just about I'm saying hi, it's about maybe respond this way or don't respond that way or it's okay, we've got you, right, whatever it is. And so go back, and she was just like, wow.
What
So
an amazing piece of validation for somebody for the
yes,
work, right?
yes,
Um,
yes, yes,
because you're right, you don't know what you don't know. So there's no way to quantify what's happening until you get to the other side, right? Until
absolutely.
you get to that place. But I
Hmm.
think that if you
Hmm.
do that exercise, you
Hmm.
keep track, and now you can see that the signs were pointing you in a direction or leading you in a direction.
Yeah,
Now you can say, "Oh, I can trust the signs. I
exactly.
am starting to understand what the signs are, and I can
Hmm.
trust them. So now I can follow them maybe a little bit easier and
Hmm.
create some ease in my life that might not have been there if I was just,
Yeah,
chugging along, I suppose is a way to put it.
yeah.
Fascinating.
And isn't it so beautiful then when people get to that point, then that's when spirit really starts amping up the communication. It's just not like, "Hello, I'm saying hi," right? It's this,
Right.
"You're okay," which it does that, but it's really that's when they start making like that communication between your spirit, and them. And you'll see the sign, you're like, "Oh, I know what they're talking about," or they know what I know what I need to do, or whatever it is. So communication really starts happening between the signs,
It's
and
it's
that's
amazing, isn't
that's
it?
like so fun. That is when the magic happens. That's when you get really excited, and if you're in a bad spot, that's when you just feel like, oh my god, I've been heard, right? And they're here to support me and so forth. So I think that's the fun. That's for me. That's when the real fun begins, when you see somebody really like starting to make, you know, daily communication, right?
Right.
Or weekly or monthly,
Right.
whatever it is for them. And they feel like it's because it's personal to them, right? And that it's a
Exactly.
personal relationship to their angels or guides or loved ones. And they just feel like, wow, I'm really connected to them. That's a
That's
beautiful thing to
amazing.
see. So, and that all just comes from science, right? Just the beginning of looking, is that a rock or is that a sign? Right? I love it.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
well,
Yeah.
and listeners have heard this before, but I take an issue with how much power some people give to rocks. Now, don't get me wrong, I play with rocks. I love
You
rocks.
love rocks.
I'm
Yeah.
surrounded by
You have
rocks,
some beautiful, oh,
right?
that's beautiful. You have
Yeah,
some
oh, you've seen
beautiful
this
rocks.
before. This
Stunning.
one this one was at the space, but I brought it home with me. It it
Beautiful.
it likes to be with me. Um,
Mhm.
but I think there is a difference
Yeah.
between if you're making a journal, right, and you're writing down the signs, you're figuring out what they mean, you're discovering. That's a journey
Yeah.
of discovery, right? If you are starting to connect with your intuition and you're a person who gets pictures or
Right.
small visions or colors,
Yep.
whatever, and you start journaling about that and you start developing yourself that dictionary, like when I see this, it means that, right?
Yeah.
That's a journey of discovery. But that's
Absolutely.
your journey and you're in charge of it, right?
Yeah,
Like it's not
absolutely.
happening to you, it's happening because you are fostering this connection that is
Mhm.
already there. And for many people, was shut
Yep.
down when they were small for whatever reason, which is another show entirely. Um, I just love to watch them get empowered and understand, oh,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can do this. I can do this. Oh, oh, you mean when I keep feeling the same way every day and I'm not changing anything, that's
Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
Like, yes, that's why. Or what
Exactly.
I love is when people step into a journey like this,
Yep.
and they gather the courage of their convictions to
Mhm.
leave
Yep.
what we call in one of my circles a muggle job. That is now. Don't get me wrong. I do not ever advocate for anyone to leave their job
No.
to step into spiritual work. Okay, so that is not what I'm doing
No.
here. Because you need to eat,
Yeah, you
right?
need a
You
foundation
need a
to keep
roof over
you.
your head.
Exactly.
You need to eat. So that is not what I'm getting at here. But I have seen people who have gathered the wherewithal to be able to leave a job in order to go embark on some kind of
Right.
spiritual journey, and then for whatever reason they lose trust, generally right before it's going to happen,
Mhm.
right? Because isn't that always when we drop it? It is right
Yeah.
before it's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
But then they go and then they try to get another job nearly identical to the one that they left and can't figure out why nobody will hire them.
Mhm.
And it's because you've shifted your physical vibration and you are
Yeah.
no longer a fit for that. So
No.
if you need to go back and get a job,
Mhm.
do, because again,
Mhm.
you need to eat, but you need to consider uh, shifting
Mhm.
shifting where that what that looks like, right? Like
Mhm.
maybe it's a different company, maybe it's a different organization,
Yep.
maybe it's a different thing altogether. Maybe you need to go work at Kohl's for a few months and fill up your bank account a little bit, whatever it might be. But I
Mhm.
think it's really interesting to that whole thing about because this is about manifesting, right? Signs is manifesting
It can be. It doesn't have to be, but
well,
yes,
but
it can
but you're
be.
manifesting the signs, right? It
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
manifesting. So when you start working with spirit in that way and start
Mhm.
attracting things to yourself through gratitude and everything else, it's like be careful what you wish for, right? Like
Mhm.
like
Be clear.
you have to be very clear with what you want because otherwise it's funny because I followed this guy. I don't his name is Lee, and it's the Asher House. He's a huge, humongous sanctuary in Oregon. He
Ooh.
left a big financial career to rescue, like, I'm pretty sure he wants to rescue all the dogs, like all
Oh,
of them.
I'm a
Um,
dog lover. Well, I'm an animal lover, but yeah.
yeah, I mean, he's got dogs and llamas and cows, and I mean, just pigs, and I mean, it's just amazing. And
Oh.
like, he manifested
Mhm.
in stages, right? Oh, at first he had a bus,
Mhm.
and had a few dogs, and then he got more dogs, so then the place had to be bigger, and then he got more dogs, and then he got a horse, and so then he had to get a bigger place. So now he's got this, I don't know, 300-acre space. So manifesting is in stages, right? But what's interesting is like he's gotten really good at it. So I just saw a video he did. He said, I said to the universe, I'd really love to rescue a bloodhound. I've never rescued a bloodhound before in my life, and I'd love to rescue a bloodhound. And then by 3 days later, he had three of them.
Oh my god.
That three of them needed him. So he's like,
Crazy.
listen, when you ask the universe for something, be really clear on what it is
Yes,
that
be
you
really
want.
clear.
Anyway, I just, it's, if you pay attention and you listen and you watch
Yeah,
and you smile and you light up and um, those are the people that attract the things to them, right? Like
yeah.
that
They're just in a
create them.
vibrational alignment with those things, right? And
Right.
mhm,
Exactly. Okay,
mhm.
so this
Yep.
is the time of the show. Every week we do our shameless plug.
I love it.
So, Val, how do people, if they would like to do a session with you, first of all, what is a session? What can a session with you be? And if they want to do a session with you, how do they find you?
So go to my website, valerie-wood.com, and we can set up a session there. Sessions usually are, some people come to me and we strictly just do mediumship session. Other people come to me and we just connect with your angels and your guides. And then I kind of feel like the majority of people, though, especially if you want to do mediumship work, there seems to be like a combination of the two, which I really like because, you sometimes connecting with loved ones, it can have all sorts of feelings and so forth. So you have the support of your angels and you get to know kind of, I always say it's like Wizard of Oz, who's behind the scenes of the curtain, right?
Right?
I'm going to tell you who's behind the scenes, right? And so it'll be like, hello, this angel's here to help support you and so forth. And, I actually, it's fun finding out who your angels are because I always said whoever shows up, whether it's a guide or your angel, whatever their gifts they have, that's what you have, right? Or they're not right, because you're resonating with you as a person, as a spirit. So if somebody is so good with numbers, most likely they're going to have, a numbers angel, right? That's usually the case. It just tells me about them, and it gives them some insights like, okay, who do I call on for, work with these numbers or highly creative, right? So it's so much fun to kind of see who's behind that. So if anyone like that, you can just head over to my website. There's a tab on there and schedule it. So thank you.
Outstanding, of course. Um, and for me, it's, well, y'all have heard this before. Everything is Angie ZXUH, right?
Yeah.
So AngieZXUH.com. My
Mm-hmm.
my YouTube channel is Angie ZXUH, and then my Facebook page is also Angie ZXUH. And so go subscribe for weekly energy management is what I'm calling it. Weekly, I'm reading the cards to help you manage your energy.
Love
So
that.
that's on YouTube every week on Tuesdays. I like it to come out on Tuesdays. My week starts on Tuesday and ends on Mondays, like because that's how I roll. Um, but something really really cool. It is not listed yet because it just was given to me this morning, and I just recently started working with this deck. So this is if you I never know what direction it's going to
No,
go.
it's beautiful. The cover is beautiful.
This is the Kyle Gray
Right.
Gateway of Light Activation Oracle,
Beautiful.
and it's published by Hay House.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna fan this out a little bit,
Yeah.
just like this, so that you can. And I'm
Wow.
gonna put my hand behind it, so
Uh-huh.
we can broadcast the energy through the screen.
It's really pretty.
And it's the energy of this deck is just absolutely stunning. But what I have discovered is that it has, like here, the Anunnaki light codes or the Temple of Truth, the Order of
Can we see some of the cards
Sure.
on the other side?
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
sure. So Anunnaki light codes.
Oh,
Wait, I don't know what direction.
there you go.
There we go.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
so there's that, but then there's like
Mm-hmm.
this one, the Order of Melchizedek, which is
Mm,
healers, right? Like healers.
yeah.
There's angelic frequency and Sirius star blessings, and there's
Nice.
all different kinds of energy signatures
Very
contained on
nice.
each one of these cards. And I have discovered
Mm-hmm.
by pulling cards, I can channel a session that goes along with the cards. So
Absolutely.
I'm going to do a group. I'm going to do group.
Mm-hmm.
This will be a group event. Um, a new word I've heard for a situation like this, bespoke. It's not a new word, but in relation to this kind of work, I'd never heard somebody call it bespoke before. Bespoke means individual, created, right? Like,
Mhm.
so it will be individual to the room. So whoever shows up will
Love
determine,
that.
the cards that get pulled, and then the
Mhm.
cards that get pulled will determine what the session is. And they come in, either the people from the
Yeah.
different orders or the different energies come in and they do
Yeah.
their work. And I did a session this morning with it, and it was out of this world.
Mhm.
So look for that, and I'll
Fun, fun.
probably it'll be listed by next week. So it'll be my shameless plug for next week as well. So there you go. Anyway, so that's that. So, and then don't forget to subscribe to this channel too while you're at it.
Yeah,
Does it? I think I want to say I saw we're up to 55 now. We're really trying to get to 100.
that's great.
The hardest to get to is 100, I think. So then, after that we get. Then after that, I guess it goes right to 1,000. That's what they tell me. Anyway, wow. Okay, so that was signs. I mean, what is it like to channel? Like we talked a little bit about this.
Oh.
John doesn't.
Mhm.
John doesn't channel at all. I
Mhm.
channel differently than you do,
Mhm.
um, but it's no less effective. I mean, neither
No.
one of us is right or wrong, right? Like, um, I I love to work with you, and I've always
Yeah,
been.
we worked a lot together.
Yes, and I mean the very first time I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, wow, look at this. This is so
All of
cool.
this stuff is cool.
It,
Spiritual stuff is
it
cool.
is cool, right? Like I think we need a banner for that one.
Yeah, I
Oh, not that
agree.
though. That's I clicked the show button instead of the edit button.
So yeah.
Um, so for me, handling the way
Mhm.
that you do and giving up, and I know that you don't really
Yeah,
give up the control, but that
no.
level of control that I just have never been able to step into. I was not able to. I probably could now, by
Yeah,
the
I
way.
agree. You can do that now.
But because now they just come through so
Mhm.
easily,
Right.
that I just don't like. I considered playing with it a little bit to see what it might be like. But I mean, if you watch, I get quiet because there's a connection happening, and it looks a
So
little
you're
different
talking
than
about like trans channeling, right? Or
if
just
that's the
anything?
term. You know me. I'm not. John is the book person. I am not the book person.
Well, I'm in John's spot, so I'm going to ask you.
Yeah, right.
I'll
You're
be
gonna
like
ask
John
questions
today.
I
Call
can't
me
answer.
John.
He's good at
Yes, he's
that.
very good. He asks great questions.
Yeah, he does. He really does. He really does. But okay, so seeing as he's not here, I'm going to tell you that John is a teacher hiding in the realm of the student,
Oh, John's a
and
great teacher.
and I'm going to call him on it one of these days,
Yeah.
and make him teach something because I think he just for whatever reason, like he's got so much. When he goes
Oh, he's
through
got a
the
lot of
things
good
he comes up with,
information.
like tarot time and everything, is amazing.
You know what
Like,
he does that I always tell my students to do? One of the things that I think is key to success is to be curious.
yeah, oh
You
yeah,
know, right? So if
absolutely,
you're curious, you're going to ask another question, and that just kind of like leads you into the next thing, right? And so forth. And
absolutely.
highly curious. So,
Well, there's curious,
hmm
and then there's letting all those books tell you how to do what you do.
yeah. So, and I'm I'm a huge believer that we all need a foundation. So if that's where you need to
Abs-
start, right? You need to take that class. Everybody needs a foundation to stand on, right? And then I think you
Absolutely,
get to a certain level where I will tell my students who are already intuitive and they just keep, especially when you get stuck, is that, you know what, just kind of toss that out the window. You have all the information, you create a good foundation. Now you just kind of need to go within and channel, right? And channel your own higher self, your angels, and so forth. Start trusting and learning how you're receiving, and then everything will just kind of come together slowly. It just merges a beautiful, it's like a beautiful painting unfolding, right? And it just kind of comes. So, um,
I think
mhm,
one thing I've noticed is that, this was me, so this is, I'm not calling anyone out because
yeah.
it was the same for me. Is like, if I could tell anybody something, it would be take the time to appreciate whatever stage you're in,
Mhm.
because the more you learn, the more you know, the more you can do, the more those things kind of, I don't want to say fall away because they're always there, but um, sometimes, there's a wonder and an awe in those beginning stages
Mhm.
that doesn't stay with you
Mhm.
forever. Like, I mean, you can still be curious. Like nothing. So you get to a point where things don't surprise you quite as much.
Oh, sure, right.
You know. So
Mhm.
so don't be in a hurry.
Mhm.
Don't, like if you see colors, right? Don't be in a hurry to hear the words. Don't be in
Mhm.
a hurry to see the visions. Take the time to
Yeah,
appreciate the colors
yeah.
and to experience
Sit
what
in
the
it.
colors mean, right?
Yeah.
If you see if you see pictures, because that was one of the stages for me was the picture,
Right. Mine too.
the things that would go by, and
Mine too.
um, take the time to appreciate the pictures and develop that language
Mhm.
so that when you run across energies that you can't translate, you have that to fall back on, right? You have that
Mhm.
language, that dictionary to fall back on. So
Yeah.
take your time. Don't be in a hurry. Like,
No.
your gifts are amazing, each one, and nobody's gifts are 100% identical. We
No.
may do similar things, we may
Exactly.
think similar ways,
Mhm.
but we don't necessarily do things the same, and
Mhm.
that's okay, right? Because
Absolutely.
there's nothing new under the
Be kind of
sun.
pretty
I
boring if
love,
we're all the
I
same.
know, right? Like, I think I love when you
I'm
said
sure
that.
nobody wants a clone of me. I'm sure my husband probably doesn't want a clone of me.
I
He'd be
know,
like,
right?
one's enough, right?
My husband either, right? Like, oh yeah, yeah.
Right?
And how many
I'm
souls
joking,
are
but there's truth to that. Like, let's be real.
right? There is, but if everybody had the same ability and everybody did this,
Yeah.
I mean, and
No.
I'm only going to relate it to the medical professions for demonstration purposes. Okay, this is never about medicine. This is never
No.
about any medical help, but
No.
actually, even medicine, law, um, teaching,
Yep.
there there are always specialties,
Mhm.
right? If you go to the doctor, you have the general practitioner. Fantastic, because you need that person like on a regular basis. But
Mhm.
then if you have something going on with your sinuses, you need the ears, nose, and throat guy.
Mhm.
And if you have something wrong with your thyroid, then you need
Mhm.
whatever that is. For some reason, it doesn't come to me at the moment. I actually know what it is, but but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so
we get
all
your
of us are
point.
different.
Yeah.
Is it's like the story I tell about if you have and are working on trauma, I
Mhm.
know who to send you to.
Exactly. Mhm.
That's not
Some
me.
people are really good with working through trauma,
I know a
right?
lot of people who are really good. And
Mhm.
actually, to be honest with you, one of
Mhm.
the best I know is an actual therapist, right? That
Mhm.
works spiritually and, with,
Mhm.
like, understands the brain science of it, because that's really
That's
important.
my favorite kind of
Um,
people to do
yes,
that. Mhm.
but but there's other things. Maybe you're dealing with grief. You need somebody
Mhm.
that can connect with your loved ones and help you with and understands grief. But how about if you just want to have some fun? Call me up. I'm all over it, right? Like, I want to be that person in between all of this that helps you remember that this
Oh.
journey should be,
Mhm.
easy and fun, right?
Yeah.
You ask for things to happen to you in a way that's comfortable and
Mhm.
appropriate.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, and I think a lot of people when they get into like spiritual work or mediumship work, they think that it's got to be really serious and you got to dive deep and you got to get rid of all those traumas and blocks. And while that can be, there's a portion of that that's true, right?
Absolutely.
Right. But they don't, I think really what they don't understand is that the excitement, the wow, the aha, the magic, you're just like, you hear people say, I can't make this up. Like, I can't believe that
Right.
happened. Right. And
Right.
you're like in awe and like stunned and, it's fun. And I think that's why, when I got into this years ago, it was just like, wow, this is so cool. This is so
Right.
much fun. Right. And, so I just always joke. I'm like, I don't understand why everyone just doesn't do it because it is so fun to me, right? Like it is fun and it can be really fun. And I think it's meant to be fun. And sometimes you're meant to laugh. And sometimes, yes, it's supposed to be easy and simple, right? And, it
Well, that's
doesn't
it.
always you don't always have to take the hard way. And, you can, there, if you need to work on trauma, which a lot of people do, right? And we all probably have our traumas. Well, then you
Sure.
do that. You take the time to do that. And, but it's not just about that. It's also about
No,
just,
and it can't
this
be just about
excitement,
that, right?
right?
You've
Mhm.
got to have something to look forward to, right?
Yeah,
Like I remember in the beginning, oh, I'm going to see Val, so I'll be able to do something new.
I
And every
know.
time I see Val, I can do something new, and
That
that
was
was the
so funny
key.
when you said that, like the first time, like, pressure, pressure.
But it happened. It just kept
But
happening,
it keeps going, right?
It really did, kept going, like first it was Matthew and then the channeling. Like,
Right.
oh, remember when you said Matthew? And I was like, oh, is he that sarcastic guy?
Yes.
And yes,
Yes.
that's him.
He's
Um,
still sarcastic and he's
he,
funny and charming,
he
right? Like,
and
so,
wait, you left out the most important one. Oh
handsome.
God, handsome. He's handsome. Don't forget
I know
about him being
Matthew very
handsome.
well.
He
Yes,
is a
exactly.
very handsome train conductor. Okay, like,
Yes. Yes, he
but
is. But that's fun, right? And you can
it is fun.
grow and you can explore and you can heal through having fun. Like
Right.
I
I
know
mean,
that
how important
firsthand.
is that? And
Very
and
important.
you brought up the onion,
Uh-huh.
right? In the
Yep.
other context. But this healing,
Mhm.
this work should be like peeling the layers of an onion. You know?
Absolutely.
I mean, I have heard of healers, energy workers, healers, whatever you want to call them. Oh my gosh, I worked with that person and for a week they were sick because we cleared so much stuff. I'm like, that doesn't sound good to me at all. Like
Yeah.
that and I actually had somebody work on me one time and they didn't even it was craniosacral work, which is
Mhm.
amazing, but
Yep.
she didn't frame it well.
Mhm.
And it happened to two of us that day. When we finished, we were both shocked. I had to go home. I was out cold for the rest of the day. Like it was too much. I can handle a lot of energy.
Yeah, you
Like you
can.
put me on the table with the stim machine, at the chiropractor's
You
office, the
mean
guy's turning
you
it up
do
and he's
lots of
like,
energy stuff. Yep.
yeah, I can handle a lot, but
Mhm.
this was a
Yep.
lot. So the point being, and the other person had to drive like an hour to another county to
Okay.
go do something, and
Yeah.
she said it was really tough for her. So the point I'm trying to make is that this work should be like peeling away layers of an onion.
Yeah.
Don't go for the deep stuff to begin with. Go for this. It's even like when you tumble rocks. You
Mhm.
you use
It's
the
true.
you use the you use the big grit, whatever, the large grit, the coarse
Mhm.
grit, coarse, that's
Mhm.
the word. And you just start polishing the edges. And then
Mhm.
you go finer and finer until you can actually polish and get that smooth surface.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, then people go into healing crisis or whatever you'd like to call it, and
Mhm.
it's not pleasant and it's not fun. And I think that people that have experiences like that might tend to say, oh, nope, I don't want
Mhm.
to do this anymore. Like
No.
that was no good. I didn't feel good. I was sick. I think that comfortable and appropriate. I was taught that by somebody,
Mhm.
that that's how you should
I like
intend
those
to do
words.
your work.
Uh-huh.
Um, in a way that's comfortable and appropriate for all concerned. And that is
Mhm.
how
I
I
like that.
always work.
Yeah.
It's how I teach. It's,
Mhm.
to me, it's important.
I
I have
agree.
that intention when I do the work. And I've never really run across somebody who was, you know,
Mhm.
miserable after a session. Like, you should feel good after a session. Does
Yeah.
that mean that trauma work won't be hard? No. But you do the work as you get to the point where you're available for it, right? Where
Mhm.
you're ready for it,
Well, you have to be ready for it.
right? Like,
You have to be ready for it.
have to be
Mhm.
ready for it because
And
you have to
sometimes it
have
takes baby
the
steps.
capability to process it. There's no
Mhm.
sense in bringing something to the surface if you can't deal with it.
Mm-mm. I agree. Mhm.
So,
Baby steps sometimes, right? Little baby steps.
yeah. And
Mhm.
really have fun along the way because
Oh, the spiritual work, as much as my work, especially with doing mediumship work, can get really serious. Let's be honest,
sure,
right? But as much as it can get serious, I think it's equally, if not more so, meant to be, your spiritual connection with yourself and your guides, angels, loved ones is meant to connect you and bring you joy and happiness and fun, right? It's not
right,
to
and
be the
strength,
Debbie Downer. It's meant to, and I'm not talking about people who've lost stuff and it's still traumatic and so forth, right? And it's hard and you have all these feelings, but it's also to remind you, you have such a, that connection never leaves you, right?
no, it
Never
doesn't,
leaves
right?
you. And, it helps you to walk through it and to find laughter in even in the dark times, which is, again, can be really difficult wherever you're at, right? But I think, it's sometimes we just need to play. And sometimes we just need to put that aside and we just need to go play with the angels, play with the fairies, play with Mother
Right?
Earth, right? Play with the dogs, right? Well, whatever it is,
Like, who doesn't want to play
play.
with the
Sometimes
dog?
we
I
just
don't know
need
if
to
I trust
play.
somebody that doesn't want to play with the dogs, right? But well, and the
Right? We
truth
need
is,
play. We need
we
play.
do because it's healing.
Very healing.
It's healing. It's
Mhm.
I kind of look at it like,
Yes.
how let's say if you get a cut or something,
Mhm.
let's say you get a cut that needs stitches, and they put the
Yeah.
antibiotic ointment on it, right, and the bandage on it, and what have you, and then you're always told that you need to open it up once in a while, let the air get to it,
Right.
let the sun get to it a little bit. To me, that's what play is,
Mhm.
right? Is
Too.
the sun. It's the light. It's
Yeah.
like, and the light is as important to the healing,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
As the work, the underneath work. So
Mhm.
it's
One
about
of my dear friends, she's a social worker. Shout out to you, Sharon. She said something to me, was talking to her about a family member and just, going through everyday stuff, which everybody does, right? And you can call it worry and stress and anxiety, which we all have and so forth. And I said to her, we were talking about this. And I said, okay, as, therapist, what's your remedy? Like, how do you remedy this? Right? Because I wanted to know her opinion as a therapist. What would a
right.
therapist say? You know what she says to me? Play. And I was like, I was like, that's right. That made me right. Play was the remedy. And I thought
Isn't
it's
that
so true. We need to play and we can't always be serious. And spiritual work doesn't have to be so serious. It can be fun and playful.
and
We need to have fun and playful because sometimes
right?
that's just the remedy.
Right, and that's follow an otter. That's fun. Ride a train.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
Play a game like like a board game with your
Yeah.
family,
We're a huge
unless
board.
it's
We play a lot
monotony.
of board games in my family.
I'm not a monotony fan, but
Uh-huh.
I'm just not. But there's a lot of games. You know what I mean? Fun, play, walk,
Fun and
swim,
play.
talk, chat, tell jokes, like whatever it is,
Whatever it is.
because not only is that the light, right? And you need the light,
Mm-hmm.
but it also clears away some of those things. Um, like let's say grief.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got their own method for grief,
Oh,
their own timing, right? Like I never, ever, ever want to say anything about somebody's timing for grief.
oh gosh, it's so
But there
personal.
are people, I
Mm-hmm.
think, that have a guilt associated with moving on,
Plain.
right?
They're
With
just plain.
because the person is gone and they feel guilty for
Mm-hmm.
having a good time because the person is gone.
Right.
And when in fact, and I'm sure you can attest to this, as a medium, that person wants you to have a good time.
Oh,
They
a
want
thousand
you to be
percent.
happy and live the good rest of your life until you join them where they are, right?
Absolutely.
Like,
Hear
so
that
what they
time and
want
time
for you
again.
and what you want for yourself are two different things sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know,
Yeah.
just letting in that little bit of light, just letting it get a little grip, right? Just a little grip.
Mm-hmm.
And it will pull you, and the light will pull you in,
Yeah,
and it will, and
exactly.
you just have to walk in it a little bit, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, grief is a lifelong process, and we just are able to kind of move through it. And I think play is part of the remedy for that, right?
I agree.
And you are 1,000%. You hear that no matter who comes through, whether it's, your grandma or Archangel Michael or whoever, right? They are always like, I think their main core message seems to be, we just want you to be happy, right?
Right,
We
right.
can't, we understand you're going to be sad. Of course you're going to be sad. You might be devastated. Of course, right? You're going to grieve. You're always going to miss that person. Of course, right? We get that, and we love you and we want you to be happy still, right? We want you to have that play. We want you to have that fun. Our time on earth is so short, you know, unless you're like my grandma, 100. But even then, in those terms, right, it's 100, right?
Yeah, right. 100's
They want
nothing.
you to play right in the grand scheme of things. So you're right, Angie. That is the main message from everyone on the other side, right?
We want you to be happy.
We want you to be happy and we want you to, find your joy, find your play, and let's be honest, we're human and earth. We're not going to have that 100%. We're not meant to, right? So when we can find that, we need to really celebrate that and be grateful for that. And we need to find ways to bring that into our life. I almost kind of feel like it's part of our duty,
Yeah, right.
right?
Well,
So, and it's a way to honor them, right? And I'm not saying that, okay, if you lost a loved one, oh, you need to go and just go play tomorrow, right? And they just pass, you know,
no, of course not. I mean,
no, but they
of
just
course
want
not.
you. Yeah, I think it's just important to know that they give you permission that when you're ready to play and find your happiness, they want they want that for you, right?
They
They're
do.
giving you the
They do.
permission when you're
And
ready for that.
I
Hmm.
think a lot of people. Oh, look, we're going over. That's all right. Just a few minutes. Um, I think a lot of people have trouble figuring out what their life without that person looks like. Like
Sure.
they just can't
No,
conceptualize it, right?
no, it's so hard.
But
Really difficult.
the longer,
Hmm.
I remember I remember having doing some work with somebody who had the capability to connect with spirits, and this person had someone coming through a lot,
Hmm.
often. Tell my daughter this, tell my daughter that, tell my daughter this, tell my daughter. The daughter was in her like late teens or early 20s, so not a little kid,
Yeah, that's so
but the
young.
daughter was really struggling letting go. And so the guidance I got to give her was, you need to stop bringing him through,
Mm,
because what's
it's
happening is
so hard for
she's
her.
never making the separation. She's never initiating that grieving process
Hmm.
physically, because she's still making this connection. Now that doesn't, people don't go see mediums week after week after week or every day or every day, so
I
that
don't
is an
recommend that.
unusual circumstance. But I think it's important to remember that um, certain conditions are more conducive to moving through grief than others,
Hmm.
right? So
That would be somebody you can have on who just, maybe it's a therapist or someone who really just deals with grief. That
yeah,
would be
maybe
someone you
one
would.
of these days. It's not terribly fun for me to talk about, but
No, that's not playful.
um, but I'm sure that I'm sure there is someone. If I was going to talk about that, I would want to make sure it was the right person.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
but
Yeah.
this is just observation from
Yeah.
working with people and being around people.
Yeah. It's hard.
And
It's
then
grief is
there's
such a
also
tricky
that
thing.
whole, in my birth chart, the cut and loose thing. So
Hmm.
it's a little harder for me to understand some of it than
Hmm.
others, and the fact that I haven't actually experienced it in my life
Yeah.
for 30
Hmm.
years, easy 30
It's a
years.
long time. You're
Yeah,
lucky.
lucky, 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 lucky,
Yeah.
very lucky. Um,
Hmm.
but I think that you get challenges in other directions.
Hmm.
But anyway, so
Anyways, I think we should, just go back to the point where, yeah, they want you to be happy. That's
they
always
do,
their message.
they
They want you to
right,
find your joy. They want you to be happy as much as you possibly can.
right, and
They want you to play.
that's what I want to leave for the ending thought for this conversation is that happiness comes to you from the outside, right? But
Hmm.
joy is from within, right?
Hmm.
Joy, you generate joy. So you have to have the funds so that your joy machine gets lit up and works, right? Joy is, happiness is a choice, I believe. You can choose to be
Hmm.
happy. You can go pet puppies or whatever.
Yeah,
Happiness
they've
is
written
a
books
choice.
about happiness.
Right. But joy is something you have to generate. And you've got to work on that a little bit, like
Yeah,
and part of and isn't it something that one of the ways to generate joy in your life is to have fun?
and just play.
Amazing, right?
Just
Anyway,
play. Hmm.
play, play, play. I love to play. I can't
Me
wait to
too.
play with this Gateway of Light deck. Hopefully, we'll see all of you there.
Yeah.
I'll have that up listed on the Facebook group soon, and it will be available to schedule on my website also, angiezxuh.com. Okay, if you listened this far, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank
And
you.
please reach down and subscribe to the channel. Go check out Valerie at valerie-wood.com, and you know where to find me. So anyway, Val, thanks so much for stepping
Oh,
in for John, and
thank
everybody
you.
listening. Join
Hmm.
me in sending good vibes over to John
Yeah.
while he deals with what's going on.
Yeah,
And
he needs it. We're sending him lots and lots of love and
yes,
healing energy
lots and lots.
for his
And
family. Yeah.
hopefully he'll be back next week. But if
Yeah.
not, we'll have another. Either Val will come back, or
Yeah,
maybe
if
we'll
I'm
have another
available.
guest.
I just feel like this is one of our breakfast dates, Angie.
Oh well, see, there you go. Oh, maybe we need to
It's
have
like this
play
is kind of
time.
like what we do.
It kind of really is, isn't it? So,
Yes, it is. I love it.
all
Well,
right.
thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for listening.
Yep.
Don't forget, you can also pick it up on the YouTube as a podcast.
Great.
So, have a wonderful day. Thanks so much. We'll talk later.